So, for today's video, I'm gonna show you what is the meaning of global media culture. So, let's define it. Globalization is the capacity to move and the potential movement across the nations. It is the link of the nations through trade informations, technologies, and communication. Thus often involve increase the integrations of different societies. Global media cultures. It explored the relationship between the media cultures and the globalizations. The course approaches the past and current challenges that concerning international communications and explore and problematize the power of media representations. For example is media. Media have important impact on the cultural globalizations. There are two mutual interdependent ways of media. So first is media. Media can provide extensive transitional transmissions of cultural products. For example is yung pakikipagkalakalan sa ibang bansa. The exchange of informations and good was made possible because of media. The second is they contribute the formations of communicative networks and social structures. For example is yung pakikipaghalubilo natin with others, to our peers, co-workers, loved ones, and everyone that you want to be connected with was made possible because of media. Is increasingly dominated by a relatively small number of huge corporations. For example is Fox and Disney. Media cultures is a society or cultures that has been heavily influenced by mass media, whereby communications occurs instantly across massive populations. This represents a dramatic and relatively relationship from traditional cultures that were formed with a process of face-to-face communications. Here is the list of examples of media cultures. Next is evolution and ages of media. Scenario: Jack Lull, professor of global studies, gave 5 periods to the study of globalization and media. First is oral communication. It is the earliest and most lasting of all forms of communication. We have had speech for at least 200,000 years, which became a medium that aided globalization with it evolved into languages. Language has passed down information over generations, resulting in the constructions of villages and towns as well as markets, traded, and cities. Second is script writing. Script is the first written language which enabled humanity to communicate and share knowledge and ideas over much greater distances and over longer period of time. So after 3000 before the Common Era, the first writing system appeared. The writing has progressed from cave drawings, petroglyphs, and hieroglyphs to the development of alphabets, the carving in woods, clay, stones, bones, and other materials are used to create writing. So that the script allowed for the permanent codification of economic, cultural, religious, and political practices, and it was widely disseminated and passed down from the generations. Third is printing press. It is stated that printing press changed markets, corporations, nation schools, churches, governments, and many other things. The reading materials such as books, pamphlets, and flyers were surprisingly made cheaper and easier to spread with the invention of the printing press. So the printing press conserved and standardized information, and it encouraged the challenge of political and theological authority by allowing alternative point of view to spread. Fourth is electronic media. In the early 19th century, electronic media as variety of new media were used to inform the globalized system. So there are, for example, of electronic media. First is telegraph. It became a global medium because it can send coded communications with its ability to transfer data at high speeds over long distances. Next is telephone. It became the next communication breakthrough. Next is radio. It was a wireless telegraph that allowed music and news to reach remote areas without the needs for wire or route. Lastly, television. It is regarded as the most powerful medium for combining visual and audio element, and it is thanks to television that the globe has become a global village. Fifth is digital media. It has taken over our daily lives. One of the examples is the computer, because it is the common representation of digital media so that everyone who has a computer can access to economic information. It also allows industry to access a global marketplace. In addition, the social media allows citizens to communicate among themselves and adopt new practices and cultures. Like for example, music, education, fashions, arts, and so on. Media made globalization possible. Cultural globalization is a sharing of ideas, meanings, hobbies, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. So this process is marked by the common consumptions of cultures that have been diffused by the internet of popular culture. So the media and international travel, as what Watson quoted in 2015, the cultural globalization is a phenomenon by which the experience of everyday life, as influenced by the diffusions of commodities and ideas, reflects as standardizations of cultural expressions around the world, and it is propelled by the efficiency or appeal of the wireless communications, electronic commerce, popular culture, and international travel. So globalization been seen as a trend towards homogeneity that will eventually make human experience everywhere essentially the same. Food chains and clothing brands are just everywhere around the world. If we ever going to abroad, we may notice that every place have something similar to our hometown, like Chowking, Levi's jeans, and many more that can also seen in our country. So those are the example of cultural globalization. Types of cultural globalization. According to John Peter, who suggested that the cultural globalization involves human integrations and hybridizations, arguing that it is possible. So going back many centuries, it refreshed the mixing of Asian. So example of this is a global restaurant chain like McDonald's and KFC, where they modify their menus to suit the taste and marks of different cultures. It emphasizes the transfigurations of worldwide diversity into a pandemic of westernized consumer cultures. So for example, is American culture, who influencing the entire world, will ultimately result in the end of cultural diversity.
The clash of civilization is the thesis that say that people, cultural, and religious identities will be the primary source of conflict in the post-Cold era. So, the American political science, or known as Samuel B. Huntington, who argued that the future wars would be fought not between the countries but between the cultures.
According to Samuel Huntington, the future of Outland will be the center around the cultures and the religions. His theory of the clash of civilizations will predict the alignment and the worst among various civilizations, like the Western, the Islamic, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Orthodox or the Russian, the Hindu, the African, and also the Latin.
This process, understood as cultural imperialism, is associated with the destructions of cultural identities and dominated by homogenized and consumer culture, and it also means the reductions in cultural diversity to popularization and diffusions of a wide array of cultural symbols such as ideas and values. One example of this is when the American was founded and settlers began to head west, they encountered the Native Americans. The Native Americans were met with resistance, but the natives eventually succumbed to the deceitful and superior weapons on the white men. So now, natives are batched together.
Of cultural and media. What is media? Often swiftly imported to international media contemporarily. Technologies like television and internal connection means worldwide. The mass media are seen today as playing a key role in enhancing, facilitating cultural change and multiple flows of information between countries through international broadcast television programming, technologies, film, and music. Because of the media, there is an extension process. So, bakit nila sinasabi na magkatandem at connected talaga ang social media at cultural? Because dahil sa mga nakikita ng mga tao, social media, example, meron silang bagong nakikitang uso o bagong uso ngayon, can change their way of clothing. It means nadala lang po sila sa mga bagong uso ngayon. And also sa language and music, nag-globalize ang culture natin through social media.
So, ang mass media ay nagbibigay sa atin ng mas mahusay na pakikipagkomunikasyon, informasyon at transaksyon sa anumang negosyo or personal na bagay. Mas madali nating maunawaan at malalaman din natin ang iba't ibang kultura.
Way back on 2017, Philippines were also included like issue of new people army. The Thailand, Southern Afghanistan, as the political statement become more intense. New number of armed groups arise so the piece of global change. It's extremely rapid, and even those trained to track and analyze it have difficulty keeping up with new development. We will in a world that is simultaneously shrinking, growing, and expanding due to the increase in the traffic and the culture, large-scale transfer of many systems in political economic terms. We all define what is media. Media refers to various means of communication. Some of the example of the communication is the television, radio, and newspaper. The cultural of imperialism. The idea of the cultural imperialism by Tomlinson by on 2012. It indicates that the one or more cultural are imposing more or less consciously on other culture, domination of one culture or another, destroying local cultures in whole or more likely in part. What is cultural differentiation? Is imposition by one politically and economically dominant community of various aspects of its own culture into another. Dominant community occurs when the tradition and way of life of group of people with their genetic priority or entire nation, one displaced by those of another. Of culture imperialism. Other world today with culture practices threatened or even destroyed of cultural from other the world, especially from the north to the south, drive ownership of casseroles in their own land currently by federal laws. The early 1500s landed worshipfully of what is now Mexico. Another example, the McDonald's. They adapt to local realities in various. It is the basic menu of fundamental operating procedure, remain the essentially same everywhere in the world. So, the enormous expansion of such standards system in the international area is one of tradition.
Modernness is the part of those who have lost their personal in the divine origins of the Holy Scriptures. For example is Ulysses, one of the classic modernism of the novels. Ulysses has been called a demonstrations and summations of the entire modernist movement. Postmoderness is the religions that consider that there is no universal religions, truths, or laws. Rather, the reality is shaped by social, historical, and cultural context. For example is sexual morality. Most Christianity teaches that sex outside of marriage is wrong, so that postmodernism would claim that such as abuse might pertain to Christians but not those who don't follow Jesus Christ. Therefore, sexual morality has become more much permissive in our society in recent decades. Pre-modernness is an extreme conservatives who still hold on to old Puritan belief system that has been proven wrong. For example is anyone who rejects evolutions and favors old Bibles from 200 years ago is a pre-modernist, so the Bible is the pre-modern outdated.
Effects of globalization to religion. Globalization creates new doors to strengthen religion, some as the exchanging belief and values, teaching equality for revenge, showing kindness, and etc. On the other hand, it also creates obstacles and challenges as it breaks traditional values while creating their own. Religious values reinforce specific identities, creates a circle of conflict and competition among various religions. We can see that the relationship between globalization and religion is a complex issue. First, one with new possibilities, the second is one with furthering challenge. Globalization is one of the strongest forces that have wide effect around the world. It does not only have deep impacts on economy but also on various aspects of life and society including the religion. It challenges the latter since religion does not approve its hybridizing effects said by Zuzu in 2013. So this way, globalization brings challenges and negative impacts on religion so that we can conclude. The relationship between globalization and religion is that complex issues as it has brought both new possibilities and further challenge. So from our analysis, we can see that globalization enchants both positive and negative aspects of religion. Media and technology. In one hand, spread religious ideas and teach to respect other religions. They also cause breaking religions ties that give birth to new religions, or sometimes make people or religious, and also causes terrorism activities in the name of protecting their own religion. Values and belief. Many times religious organizations exist in modern societies. Psychologists usually group them according to their size and influence.
Church. Church, a religious group designated as a church, is accordedly, uniquely, legitimacy as a religious organizations with the society. Example is the Catholic Church in Europe before the Protestant Reformation, or the states churches are known as the Mormonisms in Utah. There are two subtypes of church, the denominations and ecclesia. The denomination is a large religious organizations that closely integrated into the larger society, but it is not a formal part of the states. Whereas ecclesia is a large religious organization that is formal part of the state and has most or all of the states its members. So, for example of denomination are the Baptist, Episcopalians, and lastly are Presbyterians. For example of ecclesia, the Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah's Witnesses, and so on. Sikh, it is a religious group designated as a Sikh in one variables numbers of religious group within a society. It is defined by itself and other churches as the legitimate representative or a non-domestic religions, including the Islam, Saudi Arabia, Middle East nations, Catholic in Spain, Lutheran Church in Sweden, and lastly is the Anglican Church in England. Cult is a refers to a group of people with a unique type of faith. Their view as scary and horrifying because it is not a usual way of worship. The cult also does extreme acts for their beliefs. They have so much faith that doesn't turn out well. So, sinasamba nila yung isang bagay kagaya ng rebulto ng tao, hayop, krus, unggoy, elepante, at yung ibang bagay nila ay tinuturing nilang Diyos o Panginoon. Ginaganap lang nila ito kapag may kandila, apoy, at kadalasan nag-aalay din sila ng dugo ng tao at saka hayop. For example of cult are the New Age groups, Nations of Islam, and Christian Science. Activities, it is an act or things by any persons or group of persons whether acting alone or on behalf instigations of any persons or groups or organizations or associations who are committed for political, religious, or ideological purposes. For example is prostitutions, illegal drugs, kidnapping, and of course the subversions.
The challenges of globalization. To the religion linked automatically to the challenges of religion to globalization, to put it in other words. Example, one religion takes cautions against the norms and the values related to globalization. Mind that the major world religions including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and denominations such as Mormons all began as goals.
First is Christianity. Christianity is the Abrahamic monastic religions and a view of life and lessons of Jesus to Nazareth. It is the world's greatest religion with over 2.1 billion adherents around the world. Christians follow the lessons of Jesus Christ in the book of Scriptures, and Christian sacred days incorporate Easter and Christmas. The religions play a significant job in the advancement of Western progress, and the three biggest branches are the Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodox Church, and the Protestantism. The second is Islam. Islam is significantly submissions to the source of God's follower of Islam, that is called Muslim. Muslims are monastic and love one infinitely wise God, Queen Arabic, that is called Allah. So, hands of Islam expect to carry on with an existence of complete accommodations to Allah. It is the second biggest religion with over 15 supporters. The Islamic religion is in the light of the lessons of the Prophet Muhammad and the heavenly book Quran. So the supporters of Islam are based in the Asia Pacific and the Middle East. The third is Hinduism. Hinduism is the significant world religions beginning on the Indian subcontinent and containing a few unfiltered frameworks of reasoning, convictions, and customs. It is the view as the most established religions on the planet, and it is the world's third biggest religion, planting just about 1 million supporters. The Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita are its most significant strict sacreds. The fourth is Buddhism. Buddhism is an Indian religious or philosophical customs in the view of progression's unique lessons that describe the Gautama Buddha. It has an excess of 315 million adherents around the world, and it is devotes accept achieving nirvana's is definitive adjectives. The fifth is Judaism. Judaism is Abrahamic monastic and ethnic religious containing the aggregate strict socials and legitimate customs and progress of the Jewish Republic. It has its underlying foundations as a coordinated religion in the Middle East during the Bronze Age.
The challenges of globalization. To the religion linked automatically to the challenges of religion to globalization, to put it in other words. Example, one religion takes cautions against the norms and the values related to globalization. Mind that the major world religions including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and denominations such as Mormons all began as goals.